before Rebecca Whitmore disappeared beneath the frozen lake. The last thing she saw was not a rescue rope. It was her fiancé, taking off his coat and draping it over her best friend's shoulders. Black water had already climbed to Rebecca's chin. Both hands were locked around the jagged edge of the broken ice, but her soaked gloves could barely hold on. The wooden dock was less than 10 feet away. Grant Callahan stood right there, leaning forward to look at her. There was no panic on his face. He did not even call for help. She drowned in freezing water while her fiancé wrapped his coat around another woman. When she opened her eyes again, it was the morning before the lake. This time, she is not proving her love. She is proving she learned the lesson. Grant. The winter wind shredded Rebecca's voice. Give me your hand. Grant glanced down at his boots. It was such a small movement, almost as if he were checking whether the snow had stained the leather. Then he took one step back. Beside him, Nicole Foster clutched a camera to her chest. Her face was pale, but her lips were pressed into a hard line. Around her neck was a thin silver chain. Rebecca recognized it. 3 months earlier, Grant had said he bought that necklace for his mother. Rebecca's fingers slipped another half-inch from the ice. At last, Grant moved. He took off his cashmere coat. Rebecca lifted her head and reached for him with everything she had left. A second later, the coat landed around Nicole's shoulders. Grant even pulled the collar closed for her. Don't look, he said. Nicole did not look away. Through the blowing snow, she stared straight at Rebecca, one hand wrapped around Grant's sleeve. The ice cracked. Rebecca dropped into the dark water. When she opened her eyes again, she shot upright in bed with a sharp gasp. No lake, no wind, no ice. Her palm pressed against her chest and found dry silk pajamas. The curtains had not been pulled all the way shut, and a blade of winter sunlight cut through the gap and landed across the rug at the foot of the bed. Rebecca stared at her hands. Her fingertips were warm. Her skin was unbroken. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. A calendar reminder lit the screen. The 18th of December, 2025. Rebecca did not move. A few seconds later, she grabbed the phone, checked the year, checked the date again, then opened her messages with Nicole from the night before. Nicole, after the engagement shoot tomorrow, we are absolutely opening champagne. Nicole, you are finally marrying the man who loves you more than anything. The screen felt painfully bright. Rebecca's thumb rested over that last sentence as she slowly raised her head. Tomorrow was the day she had died at Silver Pine Lake. 2 knocks sounded at the door. Rebecca? Grant's voice came through the wood. Morning, babe. Her shoulders did not shake. She simply turned the phone face down, walked to the mirror, and tucked her hair behind one ear. Another knock. Nicole made breakfast. She says if you don't get up now, the blueberry pancakes are going cold. Rebecca opened the door. Grant stood there in a light gray sweater, sleeves pushed to his wrists, holding a cup of coffee. His hair was still damp from the shower. When he smiled, the right corner of his mouth lifted first. 3 years ago, that smile had been one of the first things she noticed about him. She studied his face for 2 seconds. His smile faltered. What? Nothing. Rebecca took the coffee. No sugar. A dusting of cinnamon. He remembered every little preference she had. Grant bent down to kiss her forehead. Rebecca lifted the cup by an inch, and his lips brushed empty air just above the rim. Hot, she said. He gave her a look, then smiled again. Were you up too late reading audit reports again? Nicole called from downstairs. Are you two planning to spend the whole morning being disgustingly cute? Rebecca carried her coffee downstairs. Pancakes, eggs, and fruit covered the breakfast table. Nicole wore a cream sweater, her hair twisted into a loose knot. When she looked up and smiled, a pair of small diamond earrings flashed at her ears. Rebecca stopped for half a beat. They were hers. Her father had left them to her. They had been part of the jewelry she inherited after his death, but Rebecca had always thought they were too formal and kept them in a safe deposit box in the city. A few months earlier, Nicole had borrowed them while helping style Rebecca for a charity gala. Nicole touched one earring. Cute, right? Rebecca sat down. They suit you. Nicole visibly relaxed. Grant pulled out the chair beside Rebecca. I think so, too. Rebecca picked up her fork. Interesting. What is? She cut off a small piece of pancake. Last year, when I wore them, you said they suited me too. The table went quiet for 1 second. Nicole lifted her juice. Grant gave a short laugh. They're the same earrings. Of course they look good on both of you, do they? Rebecca took a bite. Nice to know you two have such consistent taste. Nicole nearly choked on her juice. Grant reached over and patted her back. He made it to the second pat before seeming to realize what he was doing and pulling his hand away. Rebecca lowered her eyes and drank her coffee. 3 ticks passed on the clock before Nicole spoke again. You are not going to cancel tonight's engagement dinner at the last minute, are you? Your aunt is coming. A few executives from the company. Some of your college friends. I won't. Good. Nicole smiled too quickly. And tomorrow is going to be perfect for photos. Snowy mountains, the dock, the ice. The light by the lake is incredible after a storm. Grant rested a hand on the back of Rebecca's chair. I was thinking I'd wear the old watch my dad left me. Rebecca looked up. Which one? Grant blinked. You've seen it, silver face. The only valuable thing he ever left me. Rebecca watched him. The first time around, she had immediately reached for his hand when he said that. This time, she only picked up her napkin and touched it to the corner of her mouth. Of course. Grant's shoulders loosened. I knew you'd like that. I love the idea. Rebecca stood. Take your time. I have a couple of emails to deal with. She went upstairs, closed the bedroom door, locked it, and made a call. 2 rings. Daniel. It is me. Silence for half a second. You don't sound like you are on vacation. Rebecca walked to the window and looked down at the snow-covered driveway. I need you to do a few things for me. How bad? Bad enough that I don't want to explain why over the phone. He did not ask another question. She heard a keyboard immediately. Go. First, preserve every access log connected to unusual company, transfers from the last 6 months. Don't alert finance. Done. Second, call Laura. By the end of today, suspend all of Grant's company permissions. Corporate cards, reimbursements, remote system access, everything. Reason, internal risk review. Anything else. Back up every camera at the lake house, garage, front door, and dock. 2 copies. The typing stopped. The dock? Daniel asked. Rebecca looked toward the frozen lake in the distance. Yes, it's Rebecca. Yeah. Don't be alone tonight. She did not answer. Daniel did not press. I'll be there this afternoon. The call ended. Rebecca returned to the bed, opened a brand new email account she had never used, and uploaded several screenshots. One was an electronic receipt from a second-hand watch shop in the city, dated 3 weeks earlier. Buyer, Nicole Foster. $527. Item description: vintage-style silver replica watch. Rebecca stared at the screen. Footsteps sounded outside the bedroom. Someone stopped at the door. The handle turned gently. Locked. Then Grant's voice came through the door, closer this time. Rebecca, why is the door locked? Rebecca shut the laptop. There were 2 seconds of silence. Grant knocked again. This time, there was no smile in his voice. Rebecca slid the laptop into a suitcase beneath the bed and opened the door. Grant was no longer holding coffee. One hand was in his pocket, the other braced against the doorframe. Who were you talking to? My lawyer. His brows shifted. Why? Rebecca walked past him. Prenup. Grant followed her 2 steps. I thought we already settled that. That is why I am doing the final review. She turned back. You don't want to sign. Grant stopped. At the bottom of the stairs, Nicole was loading plates into the dishwasher. At the word prenup, a plate tapped lightly against the counter. Grant smiled. Of course I'll sign. You know I've never cared about your money. Rebecca looked toward Nicole. Nicole had her back to them and had turned the faucet on full blast. I know, Rebecca said. By afternoon, the lake house was busy with guests and vendors. A florist delivered white holly and pine branches. Company executives arrived one after another. Wine glasses lined the long table in the living room. Rebecca skipped the dramatic gown and wore a dark green dress. Her hair pinned up cleanly. Nicole changed 3 times. When she finally came downstairs, she was wearing a champagne-colored off-the-shoulder gown. Grant stood near the fireplace. His eyes lingered on her for half a second. Rebecca came down the stairs at exactly that moment. Grant immediately looked away. You look beautiful. Rebecca walked up to him. You weren't looking at me. Nicole paused. Grant reached out and adjusted a strand of Rebecca's hair at her shoulder. I was waiting for you. You looked pretty busy waiting. Rebecca took a glass of sparkling water from a server's tray. Grant stared at her as if trying to decide whether she was joking. She had already turned away to greet the next guest. Once dinner began. The table quickly became loud and warm. The operations director talked about expanding warehouse capacity. Rebecca's old college roommate told a story about Rebecca sleeping in the library for 2 nights during finals. Everyone laughed. After 2 glasses of wine, an old friend pointed toward Nicole. At this point, Nicole probably knows Grant better than Rebecca does. Every time I call Rebecca, she is buried at work. Meanwhile, you two are always the ones handling wedding stuff for her. Several people laughed. Nicole laughed the loudest. Stop, don't make it weird. Rebecca slowly set down her glass. He is not entirely wrong. Grant turned. Rebecca looked directly at Nicole. Sometimes I think you know my fiancé better than I do. Nicole's fingers tightened around the stem of her glass. Rebecca, you've been acting strange all day. Rebecca tilted her head. I was complimenting you. Someone at the table laughed again. Grant did not. He picked up his glass and finished the rest of his wine in one swallow. 10 minutes later, he said he needed to get his phone. Nicole announced that she needed to touch up her makeup. They left the dining room one after the other. Rebecca counted to 20 and kept listening to her aunt talk about a lease for the company's new warehouse. Her phone buzzed beneath the tablecloth. Daniel had sent a message. Garage corridor. 7:42 p.m. Rebecca did not open the attachment immediately. She waited until her aunt finished, excused herself, and walked toward the bathroom. The corner of the hallway was empty. She opened the video. Nicole stood outside a storage room near the garage. Grant approached from the other side. They did not hug. They did not kiss. Nicole simply grabbed his wrist. Does she know something? The audio did not catch everything, but that sentence was perfectly clear. Grant lowered his head and said something. Nicole shook hers. Then he raised one hand and brushed his thumb across the corner of her mouth. The gesture was too familiar to be new. Rebecca saved the video. High heels clicked behind her. She locked the screen. Nicole came around the corner holding a lipstick. Her face went white for an instant. Then she smiled. Heading to the bathroom too? Yay. I was actually looking for you. Nicole stepped closer. For the photos tomorrow, can you wear that white cashmere coat? It looks amazing on camera. Nicole blinked. Why? It is too thin. But it photographs beautifully. I'd rather be warm. Nicole's smile stalled. It'll only be 10 minutes. 10 minutes is still cold. Rebecca walked past her. You have that white puffer jacket. You wear it. Nicole turned to look after her. Sure. The dinner finally ended close to 10. Grant volunteered to pay the catering company's remaining balance. 5 minutes later, he came out of the study holding his phone in one hand. What? This company card isn't going through. 3 executives were still in the living room. Nicole was collecting gifts beside the couch. Rebecca took the card and looked at it. Really? I tried twice. Use another one. Grant handed over a second card. A few minutes later, the caterer returned. I am sorry, sir. This one was declined too. The room went quiet. One of the finance executives raised an eyebrow. The tips of Grant's ears turned red. Probably a fraud hold. Rebecca took out her own card. Use this. It went through immediately. She signed the receipt and handed the pen back. Strange. Grant stared at her. You don't think that is strange. Banks make mistakes. I used that card this afternoon. Then I guess it is even stranger. Rebecca put her card away. Nicole walked over. Want me to call finance tomorrow? Rebecca looked at her. No need. I can check it for you. You are on vacation, but I run operations. Nicole. Rebecca smiled. Thinking about my money during my engagement trip, that is dedication. Nicole's lips parted, but someone across the room called Rebecca over to look at a gift. Rebecca turned away. Behind her, Grant grabbed Nicole's wrist. Fast. Rebecca did not turn around. By 1 a.m, every guest was gone. When Rebecca came out of the bathroom, Grant was sitting on the edge of the bed, still awake. Rebecca, we need to talk. She dried her hair with a towel. About what? You've been taking shots at me all day, have I? Yes. Maybe you are feeling guilty. The room went still. Grant looked up. Rebecca draped the towel over the back of a chair. Then he laughed. Are you trying to scare me? Why would I scare you? Grant stood and walked toward her. Did someone tell you something? Who? Someone from the company. There are a lot of people at the company. Daniel Reeves. Rebecca looked at him. Why did Daniel suddenly come to mind? Grant's jaw tightened for a fraction of a second. He has never liked me. He doesn't like cheap whiskey either. What does that mean? Nothing. Rebecca pulled back the covers. We have photos tomorrow. Grant did not move. She got into bed and switched off the lamp. For a long time, the room stayed dark and silent. Eventually, the mattress dipped beside her. At 20:17 a.m., Grant's breathing finally became steady. Rebecca opened her eyes. His phone lit up on the far nightstand. The message preview showed only half a line. Nicole, there is no way she knows the watch is. The screen went dark. Rebecca stared into the darkness. 10 seconds later, Grant suddenly reached for the phone. She closed her eyes. The screen lit again without making a sound. A little later, Grant sat up, walked barefoot out of the bedroom, and gently closed the door. Rebecca waited 15 seconds, then slipped out from under the covers. A low voice came from the end of the hall. Tomorrow, we stick to the plan. A pause. She is just in a mood. Another pause. Nicole, I told you. After tomorrow, it is over. Rebecca stood behind the door. Her phone vibrated in her palm. Daniel had sent 3 words, I am outside. She looked through the window. At the far edge of the snow-covered property, a black car sat quietly beside the pine trees. At the same moment, she heard the front door unlock downstairs. Grant was leaving the house. Rebecca did not follow him. She returned to the window and opened the curtain just enough to see outside. Grant crossed the porch and moved along the side of the house toward the garage. The snow was deep, and he kept the lights off, using only his phone to see the path. The black car by the pines did not move. 2 minutes later, Grant came out of the garage carrying a small box. Rebecca recognized the size immediately. Perfect for a watch, she let the curtain fall. At 7, the next morning, Daniel sat in the far corner of the kitchen drinking coffee. Grant came downstairs and stopped dead on the last step. What are you doing here? Daniel set down his cup. Morning. I asked why you are here. Rebecca invited me. Grant turned to Rebecca. She was spreading jam on toast. Something came up at work. What could possibly require him to drive all the way out here? Didn't you say Daniel doesn't like you? Rebecca took a bite of toast. Looks like the two of you finally have something to talk about. The corner of Daniel's mouth twitched. Grant did not sit down. Nicole entered a moment later. Her face changed too when she saw Daniel. Daniel. Morning, Nicole. You here for the engagement photos too? I don't have that much free time. Nicole forced a smile. Grant kept his eyes on Rebecca. When are we leaving? 9. It is 8:30. I can read a clock. Under the table, Daniel slid a thin folder toward Rebecca. Grant noticed. What is that? Rebecca placed one hand over the folder. Some of the tension left Grant's face. Can I see it? Number, Rebecca. It is not final. Daniel looked up, and it is privileged legal material. Grant stared at him. Still cleaning up other people's messes, Reeves. Daniel took a sip of coffee. Only the expensive ones. Nicole lowered her head. Rebecca lifted a napkin to hide the corner of her smile. At 9:05, Rebecca, Grant, and Nicole left the lake house. Daniel stayed behind. Grant visibly relaxed. Silver Pine Lake stretched between snow-covered mountains. The ice near shore looked thick, but farther out, it turned dark, almost translucent. A layer of frost covered the wooden dock. Nicole wore the white puffer jacket and carried her camera over one shoulder. This is gorgeous. She walked ahead. Rebecca, stand next to Grant. Rebecca stopped 10 feet from the edge of the dock. Here is fine. Nicole raised the camera. That is too far back. You can still get the shot. The composition won't be as good. Rebecca glanced at her. Since when do you care this much about composition? Nicole laughed lightly. I watched a bunch of tutorials last night. Grant walked toward the edge. Come on, babe. Rebecca stayed where she was. He lifted one hand. Just a few pictures. Take some solo shots first. Nicole and Grant exchanged a glance. The camera hid half of Nicole's face. Grant turned back. Fine. After 3 photos, he pulled off his gloves. Actually, his hand went inside his coat. I almost forgot. He opened a silver watch box. Nicole immediately lowered the camera a little. Grant fastened the watch around his wrist. My dad's. His voice softened. He didn't leave me much. This was one of the few things. Rebecca stayed exactly where she was. Wind tugged at the hem of her coat. Grant looked down, adjusting the clasp. I always thought that when I finally had a real family of my own, I'd wear it in a picture. Nicole's eyes turned red. Too quickly. Grant looked at Rebecca. Guess I finally made it. Rebecca did not move closer. The smile on his face began to stiffen. Rebecca, touching. Then come here. Get the watch settled first. He looked down. His fingers moved over the clasp twice. Then the watch slipped from his wrist. It struck the edge of the dock, bounced once, and landed on a patch of dark, thin ice several yards away. Nicole gasped. Grant. Grant rushed to the edge. No. He dropped to one knee. The silver watch sat about 6 yards from the dock. Beneath the thin ice, black water moved slowly. Grant looked up. She did not move. Help me. How? You are lighter than I am. Nicole jumped in immediately. If you lie flat and spread your weight out, it should be safer. Rebecca looked at her. You researched that. Nicole's mouth tightened. It is common sense. Grant stood. It is only a few feet. What about your knee? What? Didn't you say you injured it in college? Grant froze for a beat. Yeah, that is why I can't go out there. You went running through the snow yesterday. That is different. How? Grant glanced at Nicole. Wind rushed across the lake, slapping the camera strap against Nicole's jacket. Rebecca, Grant lowered his voice. Don't start this right now. I am not starting anything. Then help me get it back. Why? Because it belonged to my father. And his face finally darkened. Because you love me. Rebecca looked at him. Grant stepped closer. You are always saying you don't want to be some rich girl who just signs checks and lets other people handle everything for her. Nicole said nothing. Rebecca kept her hands in her coat pockets. Keep going. Grant thought she was giving in. His voice softened. I am asking you to do one thing for me, to prove I love you. Yes. Rebecca laughed quietly. Grant frowned. What is so funny? She looked toward the thin ice. If it is so safe, Grant. Then she looked back at him. Why don't you go get it yourself? Nicole slowly lowered the camera. Grant did not answer. Rebecca took one step forward, not toward the ice, only to the middle of the dock. And one more thing. She pulled out her phone. When did your father start collecting $500 reproduction watches? Color drained from Grant's face. Nicole went rigid. Rebecca opened the receipt and turned the screen toward them. Purchase date. Item description. Buyer name. Nicole Foster. The wind moved across the dock. No one spoke. Nicole broke first. I can explain. Rebecca looked at her. I can't wait. I bought it for Grant. I gathered that. The real one is too valuable. He didn't want to bring it out to the lake. Grant whipped around to stare at her. Nicole realized what she had said too late. Rebecca tapped the receipt on the screen. But he just told me this was the real one. I remembered wrong. You got his father's keepsake confused. Nicole opened her mouth. Grant suddenly reached over and pushed Rebecca's phone down. Enough. Rebecca looked at his hand. He immediately let go. What is going on with you lately? I am fine. You don't sound like yourself. Which version of me do you prefer? Grant swallowed. Rebecca put her phone away. The one who never asks questions. No one answered. Or the one who hears you say, prove you love me, and crawls onto thin ice. Nicole went white. Grant froze completely. Rebecca saw it, clearly. Not confusion, fear. Her phone vibrated in her pocket. Daniel had sent one word. Recording. The dock camera was live. Grant took one step toward her. Rebecca, what exactly do you know? She did not back away. More than you wanted me to. Who told you? You can guess. Nicole suddenly grabbed Grant's arm. We need to go. He jerked away from her. Shut up, Grant. I said shut up. Rebecca watched them. No rush. She took out her phone again. The watch is the cheapest thing on my list. Grant stared at her. What is that supposed to mean? Rebecca opened another file. A series of company transfers filled the screen. She looked up. It means you should probably start looking for a lawyer. Grant did not look at the screen. His eyes stayed on Rebecca's face. Nicole looked. The first line showed a transfer date. The second showed an approval number. The third showed a receiving account. Her breathing changed immediately. Rebecca. Yeah. Where did you get those? My company. You can't just pull private employee records. They aren't private records. Rebecca scrolled down. It is company money. Grant finally reached for the phone. Give me that. Rebecca stepped back half a pace. Why? Because you are not thinking clearly. I feel extremely clear. You are accusing me of something. I haven't even started. Nicole turned sharply toward Grant. What does she mean? Grant ignored her. Let's go back inside. The three of us can sit down and talk. The three of us? Yes. Why three? Grant stopped. Rebecca looked at Nicole. I thought you were just here to take pictures. Nicole pressed her lips together. Rebecca, I know you've been under a lot of stress. Don't diagnose me. I am not. Then don't use that tone. Grant pointed at Rebecca. Listen to me. We did not take your money. Rebecca glanced at his finger. He slowly lowered his hand. The account isn't mine, he said. Nicole's head snapped toward him. Grant. What? What did you just say? I said the account isn't mine. Nicole stared at him. So this is what you are doing now? Grant's expression shifted. Doing what? Rebecca stayed silent. At the edge of the dock, the thin ice made a faint cracking sound. The fake watch still lay there. Nicole stepped closer to Grant. You told me to make those transfers. I told you to review vendor payments. You gave me the account numbers. You are the VP of operations. You had approval authority. Nicole let out one short laugh. That was fast. Grant frowned. What was? Last night. You were telling me that after tomorrow, everything would be over. The air seemed to freeze. Grant's face changed instantly. Nicole realized what she had just revealed. Rebecca only lifted an eyebrow. After tomorrow, Nicole stepped back. It is not what you think. I haven't said what I think. Please, keep talking. Grant lunged forward and grabbed Nicole's arm. Shut your mouth. Nicole ripped herself free. Why? You said she didn't know anything. Rebecca stood a few feet away from both of them. Nicole's camera was still recording. A small red light glowed on the body. Grant saw it and grabbed the camera. Nicole clung to the strap. Give it to me. Are you insane? Turn it off. You said we were just taking pictures. Grant yanked hard. The camera came free from Nicole's hand and hit the wooden dock with a dull crack. Nicole bent to pick it up. Grant blocked her. Don't touch it. It has everything from today on it. Exactly why it needs to be deleted. I thought you said we didn't do anything wrong. The sentence landed. Both of them went silent. Rebecca finally smiled. Thank you. Grant turned toward her. For what? For saving me a lot of time. A muscle jumped in Grant's cheek. Rebecca, this isn't what it looks like. How long have you been sleeping together? Nicole lost all color. Grant said nothing. 6 months, Rebecca asked. Silence. 9. Nicole looked at the dock. Rebecca nodded once. Longer than I thought. Rebecca. Nicole stepped forward. I never meant to hurt you. Then you are naturally gifted. I swear, it wasn't about money. I didn't ask about money. Nicole closed her mouth. Grant swore under his breath and turned away. Where are you going? Rebecca asked. I don't have to stand here and listen to you lose it. Your car isn't going anywhere. Grant turned back. What? Your company vehicle access was suspended. This is your private lake house, not the office. The SUV you drove last night is a company lease. His face went hard. Rebecca continued. Security at the gate has also been told to log every vehicle leaving the property. You trapped me here. She pointed toward the path leading back to the house. You can walk. Nicole spoke suddenly. Grant, you promised me. Grant closed his eyes. Not now. Then when, Nicole? You said once she signed the prenup, once the audit was over, once the lake thing was done, we'd leave. Grant rushed toward her. Shut up. Nicole shoved him away. You are really going to dump all of this on me? Grant grabbed her wrist. She twisted back. Her shoe came down on a nearly invisible patch of frost at the edge of the dock. Her foot slid. Nicole fell backward. Rebecca reached for her. Too late. The white puffer jacket disappeared over the edge. A second later, the water erupted below. Nicole. Nicole surfaced in the black water, both hands slapping against the broken ice. Grant. Grant rushed to the edge, then stopped. Nicole reached up. Pull me out. Grant bent down. His hand went halfway toward hers. A crack split through the ice beside him. He pulled back immediately. Get a rope, Nicole screamed. Grant looked toward shore. A life ring hung from a wooden post only a few steps away. He did not move toward it. One of Nicole's hands slipped. Grant. He stood, took one step back. Then another. Nicole stared at him. What are you doing? Grant said nothing. You said you loved me. His lips moved, but no words came out. In the distance, near the pine trees, an engine started. Grant suddenly turned. Grant. Nicole's voice changed. He ran down the dock without looking back. Nicole's teeth chattered so violently she could barely keep her mouth closed. She watched him get farther and farther away. Then, slowly, she turned toward Rebecca. A few feet of black water separated them. Nicole's eyes were red. He did this to you too, didn't he? Rebecca did not answer. Nicole's hand slipped from the ice. Rebecca spun around, tore the life ring from the post, and threw it toward her. Grab it. Nicole missed. The ring struck the water beside her shoulder. Rebecca pulled it back and threw again. Nicole. Nicole lifted one arm and finally hooked it through the ring. Rebecca looped the rope around the wooden post to secure it, then called emergency services. She did not try to drag Nicole across the broken ice. She kept the ring stable so Nicole could stay above water until trained rescuers arrived. Stay with me. Nicole's lips had turned pale. I am cold, I know. Don't let me die. Rebecca crouched on the dock. Look at me. Nicole raised her eyes. Do not close them. Sirens came quickly from the road. At the same time, Rebecca's phone buzzed. Daniel. She answered. He is heading for the garage, Daniel said. Don't stop him, you sure? Let the cameras do their job. There was a pause. Nicole was still shaking in the water when first responders came running down the snow-covered path. Rebecca stood as the first deputy reached the dock, and Jonels involved. My fiancé. Where is he? Rebecca pointed toward a trail of footprints disappearing through the snow. He ran. The deputy immediately reached for his radio. Rebecca's phone lit again. Not Daniel this time. A live alert from the garage camera. On screen, Grant rushed to a black SUV and hit the key fob 3 times. Nothing. A 4th time. Still nothing. He kicked the tire. Then he looked up. Blue and red lights were sweeping slowly across the garage entrance. Grant stood frozen. For the first time, his expression completely collapsed. 2 hours later, the observation room at the county sheriff's office was almost uncomfortably warm. Rebecca held a paper cup in both hands. The coffee inside had gone cold. Daniel sat beside her, his suit jacket hanging over the back of his chair, sleeves rolled to his elbows. How is Nicole? Hypothermia, but she is stable. Rebecca nodded, and Grant. Daniel tipped his chin toward the one-way glass. On the other side, Grant sat at a metal table. Snow and grime from the garage marked his sweater. Detective Mark Ellis put a form in front of him. Grant did not look at it. I want a lawyer. One has been contacted. Then I am not answering questions until he gets here. That is fine. Ellis closed the folder. We can talk about things that don't require an answer. Grant looked up. The camera on the dock was recording the entire time. His jaw tightened. The exterior cameras on the house were recording too. Grant remained still. The garage camera shows that after the incident, you did not go back to the house for help. You went straight to the vehicle. I was looking for a signal. The house has a landline. I panicked. Understandable. Ellis nodded. So you panicked so badly that you tried to unlock the same SUV 4 times. Grant leaned back. I didn't commit a crime. At the moment, I haven't said you did. In the observation room, Daniel spoke quietly. He hates silence. Rebecca looked through the glass. I used to think he liked quiet. He likes quiet he controls. The door opened. Laura Bennett walked in. She was in her 50s, with short hair and snow still clinging to the shoulders of her black coat. She set a document envelope on the table. We got the server logs. Rebecca did not reach for them. How bad? Worse than we expected. Nicole. Her credentials were used for most of the transfers. Daniel looked through the glass at Grant. He'll use that. Laura pulled out a chair. He already is. Grant's attorney arrived a few minutes later. After a quiet conversation, Grant began speaking again. I am willing to cooperate. Ellis looked at him. Okay, but I want to make something clear first. Grant put his palm on the table. I didn't transfer that money. Who did? Nicole. No one in the observation room spoke. Grant continued. She runs operations. She had access. She has always been jealous of Rebecca. Rebecca's fingers stopped against the rim of her paper cup. She used to say, Rebecca got everything without having to work for it. What was your relationship with her? Ellis asked. Grant paused. Friends. Ellis raised his eyes. Grant's attorney touched his arm lightly. Grant corrected himself. We slept together. How long? A few months. Did Rebecca know? Not before today. Rebecca watched him. Her own reflection floated faintly in the glass. No expression. Grant went on. Nicole wanted me to leave Rebecca. I refused. She got more and more obsessed. Daniel turned his head slightly. Here it comes. Rebecca glanced at him. What? He is about to talk himself into a hole. Sure enough, Grant's next sentence was, the lake was her idea too. Ellis gave him nothing. She bought the watch. We know. She said Rebecca would definitely go onto the ice. And you? I thought she was only trying to scare her. You just said you didn't know what she had planned. Grant's mouth twitched. His attorney cut in immediately. My client needs a break. Someone knocked on the door. A deputy entered and murmured something to Ellis. Ellis nodded. Perfect timing. He looked at Grant. Miss Foster is awake. Some tension left Grant's shoulders. Good. She is also willing to cooperate. The relief vanished. A few minutes later, a tablet on the table lit up. Nicole lay in a hospital bed, wet hair stuck to the side of her face, a heavy blanket wrapped around her shoulders. She looked exhausted, but her eyes were clear. Ellis spoke first. Nicole, we've heard several statements from Mr. Callahan. You have the right to wait for an attorney before speaking. Nicole stared at Grant on the screen. What did he say? Grant cut in immediately. Nicole, don't say anything yet. What did he say? No one answered. Nicole asked again. Ellis summarized Grant's claims about the transfers and the plan at the lake. Nicole did not curse. She simply stared at Grant. 10 seconds. 15. Grant broke first. They're twisting what I said. Nicole let out a rasping laugh. You said I moved the money? Nicole, you said the lake was my plan too. I said you bought the watch. Because you were too scared to buy it yourself. Grant's lawyer quietly told him to stop talking. He ignored the advice. You had access, Nicole. Every record is under your credentials. Nicole closed her eyes. When she opened them again, she looked at Ellis. Detective, yes, I want to change my statement. Grant sat, bolt upright. Nicole, I have a folder in the cloud. Shut up, Grant. For the first time, she said his full name instead of the pet name she usually used. You stood at the edge of that lake and watched me. Grant went pale. The ice was breaking. I couldn't get close. The life ring was 3 steps to your right. Grant said nothing. Nicole drew a slow breath. The folder has the transfer records. It has emails he sent me. Grant spun toward his lawyer. She is lying. And screenshots of our messages. Nicole. And a voice memo where he told me to delete an internal audit alert. Grant stood so fast that the legs of his chair scraped hard across the floor. 2 deputies moved in immediately. Nicole kept her eyes on him. Didn't you tell me that if something happened to Rebecca, everything would get easier? In the observation room, Laura looked up. Daniel took his hand off his coffee cup. Rebecca stayed seated. There was no color left in Grant's face. You agreed to it too? Yes. Nicole answered without hesitation. So I'll answer for my part. She paused. But I am not answering for yours. Grant's breathing turned heavy. You think they're going to let you walk? Number. Then why are you doing this? Nicole looked at him. Because when I was in that water, you wouldn't even get your shoes wet for me. Grant went still. Rebecca's fingertip tapped once against the paper cup. She understood exactly what Nicole meant. It was not a metaphor. Nicole had seen it for herself. The same man. The same choice. After the interview paused, Laura opened the document envelope again. Rebecca, there is one more thing. She pulled out a vehicle repair report. Did your car have a problem about 3 weeks ago? Rebecca checked the date. A brake warning, the shop said. It was an electrical fault. Laura placed another printed email beside it. The sender was Grant. The recipient was an unfamiliar private email address. The message was short and contained no technical instructions. Only one sentence. Next time, make sure it doesn't look fixable. Rebecca stared at the line. Daniel stood and closed the observation room door. Laura spoke quietly. The police still have to verify what this refers to, but it suggests the lake may not have been the first time. Only the soft rush of the heating vent filled the room. Rebecca slowly pushed the paper back across the table. On the other side of the glass, Grant was arguing intensely with his attorney. Then he looked up, as if he somehow knew she was standing on the other side. He could not see through the one-way glass, of course. Still, he stared straight toward her. Rebecca lifted her cold coffee and took one sip. Then she looked at Laura. Turn over everything. Over the next few months, Silver Pine Lake froze again and slowly thawed. Rebecca did not return to the lake house. She arrived at the office at 8 every morning and left at 7 every evening. Nicole's office was sealed for 2 weeks, then cleared out. One afternoon, Rebecca's assistant placed a cardboard box beside her desk. Inside were Nicole's personal belongings, a few notebooks, a scarf, and the small diamond earrings. Rebecca held them for a while. Then she put them in a drawer. She did not throw them away. She did not wear them either. By the end of the internal audit, the company had recovered most of the traceable funds. At an emergency board meeting, one director proposed replacing part of the operations team. Another suggested temporarily reducing Rebecca's decision-making authority. Rebecca sat at the head of the long table. Why? An older director cleared his throat. You've just been through a serious personal crisis. So, we're only concerned that you may need time to recover. Rebecca closed the report in front of her. Who ordered the suspicious payments from the last 6 months to be frozen? No one answered. Who removed Grant's system access before the audit team formally stepped in? Silence again. Who preserved the server logs before anyone had a chance to alter them? The older director removed his glasses. Rebecca looked around the table. If you want to discuss my performance, bring me numbers. She pushed the report into the center of the table. If you are worried I'll fall apart because my fiancé betrayed me, then this meeting is over. 15 minutes later, no vote had been taken. Daniel was waiting outside the conference room. I heard you made 3 people put their prepared speeches back in their folders. Rebecca pressed the elevator button. When did you start listening to office gossip? When your office gossip got better than television. The elevator doors opened. They stepped inside. Daniel handed her a coffee. Rebecca took it. No sugar, I know. She looked at him. Daniel pressed the button for the lobby. Don't be nervous. I am not nervous. I meant the coffee. Rebecca laughed. It was the first time in months that she had genuinely laughed in the middle of a workday. When the criminal case moved toward trial, reporters briefly crowded the entrance to the company. Rebecca made one public appearance. She did not talk about love. She did not talk about betrayal. She confirmed only that the company was cooperating with investigators and that client funds had not been affected. After that, she declined every interview. Nicole accepted a plea agreement. She admitted participating in financial fraud, deleting some internal records, and failing to stop Grant, even after she understood he intended to create an accident involving Rebecca. As part of her cooperation, Nicole turned over additional evidence. Grant refused to plead guilty. He insisted every plan had been Nicole's idea, until the 3rd day of trial. That morning, prosecutors played an audio recording Nicole had accidentally saved months earlier. Grant's voice came through the courtroom speakers, calm and casual. The easiest way to push her is to say, "Prove you love me." No one in the courtroom moved. Rebecca sat in the 2nd row, hands resting on her knees. The recording continued. She hates people thinking she is just some rich girl protected by money. If she thinks it is a chance to prove she is tougher than that, she'll do it. Grant sat at the defense table without turning around. Nicole kept her head down. Rebecca stared forward. Her breathing stayed even. Only her right thumb moved slowly across the knuckle of her index finger. When the recording ended, the courtroom was so quiet that the sound of paper turning seemed loud. During a recess, Nicole was escorted toward a side door. As she passed Rebecca's row, she stopped. A deputy motioned for her to keep moving. Nicole looked at Rebecca. "Thank you for that day." Rebecca did not say, "You are welcome." She did not say, "I forgive you." She asked one question. "Can you swim now?" Nicole blinked. Then one corner of her mouth lifted. "I am learning." Rebecca nodded. "Good." The deputy escorted Nicole away. Daniel sat in the back row. He looked at Rebecca once and said nothing. The final sentencing came a few weeks later. Grant received a lengthy prison sentence after being convicted on multiple fraud and theft counts, along with conspiracy charges tied to the crimes planned against Rebecca. Nicole was sentenced as well, though her cooperation and guilty plea resulted in a lighter penalty. When the judge finished, Grant finally turned around. He looked at Rebecca between two court officers. His carefully styled hair had been cut short. His face was thinner than it had been months earlier. "Rebecca." An officer told him to move. He did not. "Rebecca, please." Rebecca lifted her eyes. Grant's voice was rough. "I know I was wrong." No one answered. "I really did love you." Rebecca watched him for several seconds. Grant seemed to think he had found an opening. "Do you remember the year your father died? I sat with you in the cemetery all day." Rebecca's fingers moved slightly. She remembered. It had been cold. Grant had wrapped his own scarf around her neck. They stayed there until dark. That memory was real, and because it was real, everything he did afterward looked even uglier. Grant's eyes reddened. "That wasn't fake." Rebecca stood. "I know." Grant froze. "So you asked me something once." "What?" "You asked me to prove I loved you." Grant's lips parted. Rebecca draped her coat over one arm. "I already did." The wooden courtroom doors opened. The hallway beyond them was bright. "It cost me enough." She turned away. Grant called her name behind her. She did not look back. By the time spring truly arrived, Rebecca finally returned to Silver Pine Lake. The snow had retreated high up the mountainside. The wooden dock had been repaired. 2 new boards marked the place where everything had happened. There was no ice on the lake now. Wind moved across the water, breaking the sunlight into thousands of bright fragments. Rebecca stood in the middle of the dock. She did not go all the way to the edge. Footsteps sounded behind her. Daniel approached carrying 2 coffees. "Are you following me?" "You owe me dinner." He handed her 1 cup. Rebecca took it. "For helping me keep the company?" "Number, for sitting with me at the sheriff's office." "Nope." "Then why?" Daniel stopped beside her and looked out over the lake. "Because you made me spend Christmas Eve eating 2 vending machine sandwiches at the county sheriff's office." Rebecca looked down and laughed. "You hold a grudge? Professionals keep records." She took a sip of coffee. The temperature was exactly right. Near the shore, a couple was taking pictures. The woman stepped into a patch of slush, and her boyfriend immediately pulled her back. They both laughed loudly. Rebecca watched them for a few seconds, then looked away. Daniel did not ask what she was thinking about. After a while, he said, "Dinner? Depends where you pick. Any conditions. No lake view. Fair." They started walking back. At the end of the dock, Rebecca stopped once. She looked over her shoulder. Sunlight covered the entire lake. No broken ice. No white puffer jacket. No one standing on shore, asking her to prove anything. She looked for only 1 second. Then she turned and caught up with Daniel. This time, no one else got to decide which direction she walked. "Let me tell you about Grant Callahan. A man so hollow that his entire sense of self-worth depended on being the hero in someone else's manufactured crisis. He didn't love Rebecca. He loved that she was competent enough not to need him, which made the rare moments she did ask for help feel like validation. And he didn't love Nicole either. He loved that she was desperate enough to need him constantly, which made him feel indispensable. He wasn't choosing between 2 women. He was choosing between 2 mirrors that reflected the version of himself he wanted to see. But here is the thing about Grant. He was a coward, dressed in cashmere. When the ice cracked and Nicole screamed his name, he didn't freeze out of shock. He made a calculation. He looked at the life ring 3 steps away, looked at the woman drowning in front of him, and decided his shoes mattered more than her life. That is not panic. That is clarity. That is a man who finally showed the world exactly who he'd been all along. Someone who only plays hero when the script guarantees he won't get wet. And Nicole. Sweet, scheming, self-destructive Nicole. She stole $500,000, framed her best friend, bought a fake watch to manipulate a proposal, and convinced herself it was all justified because she loved him more. But love was never the currency she was spending. It was desperation. She didn't want Grant. She wanted Rebecca's life, the money, the respect, the security, the effortless confidence that comes from never having to beg. And when Grant finally showed her the truth, that he valued dry shoes over her survival, she didn't cry about love. She cried because she'd bet everything on a man who wouldn't risk a cold for her. But this story isn't about them. It is about Rebecca. Rebecca, who was reborn the morning before her own murder, and didn't waste a single second on denial. She didn't scream. She didn't confront them emotionally. She froze the credit card, preserved the server logs, backed up the camera footage, and let them perform their own destruction in 4K. She gave them every opportunity to tell the truth, and when they chose to lie, she simply documented it. She didn't need to destroy them. She just stopped protecting them from themselves. And here is the part I need you to hear tonight. Loves. The most dangerous thing you can do to people who've built their lives on your silence is start keeping receipts, not for revenge, for protection, for the moment when they inevitably try to rewrite history and claim you were the villain in a story they wrote in blood. Rebecca's fiancé asked her to prove she loved him by crawling onto thin ice. And you know what she did? She said no. That is it. Just no, no explanation, no apology, no performance of heartbreak to make him feel like his betrayal mattered. Just a clean, cold, beautiful no. Because she finally understood that love should never require you to risk your life to validate someone else's ego. And when it was over, when Grant was sentenced, when Nicole was cooperating, when the reporters finally left, Rebecca didn't collapse. She didn't take 6 months off to heal. She showed up at 8 every morning, led the audit, fired the people who suggested she was too fragile to lead, and rebuilt the company her ex-fiancé tried to destroy. She didn't let survival be her peak. She made it her starting line. So here is my message to you tonight. If someone ever asks you to prove your love by stepping onto dangerous ground, whether it is literal ice, financial fraud, or just the quiet erasure of your own boundaries, the correct answer is not. How far? The correct answer is no. And if they call that cold, selfish, or unloving, let them freeze. The story's told. She came back from the dead, documented the conspiracy, saved the woman who betrayed her, and walked out of that courtroom without looking back. The lake thawed. The dock was repaired. And Rebecca, she kept the key. Now, it is your turn. Are you ready to stop proving yourself to people who were never worthy of the audition? I am Nova. Sweet dreams tonight, and tomorrow. Rise from the ashes. Reborn.